I had been a hospice nurse for over 8 years, and during that time, I had witnessed death more times than I could count. I had learned to recognize its patterns, the slowing breath, the distant eyes, and the quiet withdrawal that happens when the body begins to let go. Death, in my experience, was almost always silent, predictable, and final. Or at least, that's what I believed until the night I met Mr. Calloway. He had been admitted 3 days earlier, 87 years old, late-stage cancer. His condition had worsened rapidly over the past few days, and the doctors had already done everything they could. Now he was under hospice care, waiting for the inevitable. By the time I was assigned to his room, he had been unresponsive for nearly 72 hours. He hadn't opened his eyes, spoken, or reacted to touch or sound. His family had visited earlier that day, standing beside his bed, holding his hands, whispering their goodbyes even though they knew he couldn't respond. I watched them leave slowly, their faces heavy with grief. By midnight, the room was quiet again. Just him and me. The only sound was the steady rhythm of the heart monitor and the soft hum of the oxygen machine. I walked over to check his vitals. His breathing was shallow and uneven, his skin pale and cool. Familiar signs that told me he was close, very close. I adjusted his blanket gently, making sure he was comfortable. Even though he couldn't respond, I spoke to him anyway. It was something I had always done with my patients. I said softly that, "You're not alone, and I'm right here." I didn't know if he could hear me, but I hoped he could. I turned to write notes on his chart when I heard something behind me. A faint movement. I froze, unsure if it was real or just exhaustion playing tricks on my mind after a long shift. Then I heard it again. A slight shift of fabric. I turned slowly toward the bed. His eyes were open, clear and aware. He was looking directly at me. For a moment, I couldn't move. This man had been completely unresponsive for 3 days, and now suddenly he was awake, present in a way he hadn't been before. His lips parted slightly, and in a quiet, steady voice, he spoke. "Sarah." My heart stopped. A chill ran through my entire body. That was my name. I had never told him. No one had. His family had always called me Nurse, and my name badge was hidden beneath my sweater. And yet, he said it clearly. "Sarah," he repeated. I stepped closer, my hands trembling slightly. "Yes," I whispered. "I'm here." He studied my face with a calm, peaceful expression and said, "Thank you," he said softly. "Thank you for staying with me." I didn't know how to respond. I had cared for countless patients, but this moment felt different. There was no confusion in his eyes, no delirium in his voice. He was fully aware. This was terminal lucidity. I had heard other nurses talk about it. Patients who suddenly regained clarity shortly before death. But I had never witnessed it myself. Until now. He shifted his gaze toward the ceiling, his expression serene, and said quietly that, "She's here." I hesitated and asked, "Who is here?" He smiled faintly and said, "My wife." On his chart, it was mentioned that she had passed away nearly 10 years earlier. "She's been waiting for me," he said. There was no fear in his voice, only calm acceptance. He then looked back at me, his eyes steady, and said, "I'm not afraid anymore." In all my years as a nurse, I had seen fear. I had seen people struggle against the inevitable, holding on with everything they had. But he wasn't struggling. He was at peace. I sat beside him, holding his hand, For a few precious minutes, he was simply himself. Not a patient, not a diagnosis, but a person fully present in the moment. Then gradually, I noticed the change. His grip began to weaken. His breathing grew quieter. His eyes, still peaceful, slowly began to close. "Thank you, Sarah," he whispered one last time, and then he became still. I remained beside him, listening to the soft rhythm of the machines as the room returned to silence. Within the hour, he passed peacefully. I stood there long afterward, trying to understand what I had witnessed. Terminal lucidity. Science describes it as a brief return of mental clarity before death. But standing in that room, it felt like something more. It felt like closure. In 8 years of nursing, I had seen many people die, but that night changed me. It made me realize that death is not always just an ending. Sometimes, it gives people one final moment to return, one final chance to speak, to connect, and to say goodbye. And sometimes, it reminds us that even at the very end, something deeply human remains. If you have ever witnessed terminal lucidity or experienced something similar with someone you love, you can share your story in the comments. Your experience may help others understand they are not alone.